So, Yugapnik, you were on a flight. You just got in, though your arm's tired.
Yes, very tired.
I love it. I love it.
Explain the joke though. I don't get it. I love the accent, but I don't get the joke.
Oh, the joke is like you flew there yourself, like you flapped your arms to fly.
Oh my
Flapped your
god.
arms,
Oh god.
You haven't heard that one before? Oh, it's a cheesy classic.
Yeah, but jokes that are that bad they're good. Well, that one is just that bad that it's bad. But I still love you. Don't worry.
What are some cultural ones that you guys have? That's a very common one for us.
Well, it's always something related to a pun, basically. Some misuse of a word that means something else, just
So
like in English.
You have the stuff like, Dad, I'm tired, or hey, tired, I'm Dad. That one?
Yeah. Or like, hey, teacher, can I go to the toilet? And the teacher looks at the kid and says, I don't know, can you? Ha. And the whole classroom loses its mind, even after like 12 years of listening to the same fucking joke. And some professors continued doing it, like on a weekly basis, even.
Terrible.
There's two kinds of jokes that come to mind. There's one that you will hear from like older relatives when you're young, which are it's a boomer comedy where it's like a long poem basically, and there's some stupid punchline at the end, and it's never funny.
Yeah, I love those.
This is something that the boomers over here love. And the other one is shit that you'll hear like from older siblings or like older relatives, but not boomer relatives, which is also like a story that rhymes. But the play on words, like they try to rhyme things, like there's a guy and he's on a plane, but he does something on the plane and a cucumber falls out of his ass, but it rhymes in Arabic, so that's why it's funny. By the way, the example I gave is real. That's an actual fucking thing.
I love that.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like these two, and then you have the examples that my dad gave, which were no jokes, because my father's an incredibly stern individual. He's mellowed out as he's aged, but he's a military man and very what's it called?
Yeah.
You know the type. You rarely see a smile on his face, but sometimes you think, okay, he might love me. These are jokes, people. These are jokes. Jesus Christ. But yeah, now that you actually mentioned it, I don't think. Yeah, both my parents were never really like jokesters. Huh. It's the uncle, right? It's the uncles.
Yeah,
I think
it's always the funny uncle.
Yeah. And they're always the ones with like family trouble. Like they have they have debts or some shit, or
he shows up on a motorcycle. Yeah.
Dude, yeah. One of my cousins was that happened. He oh my god, what a fucking mess. He's a very smart kid, but he didn't apply himself. He's in engineering, right? And he didn't really apply himself. And then one day he comes home on some motorcycle that God knows where he got it from, and he just hands his parents like his report card, and it's all like fails. Yeah, and then I'm just like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? What the fuck?
Living his best life. That's what he's doing.
Yeah. By the way, he would always slick his hair back and would wear like these oversized sunglasses.
Yes.
He looked like a character from Grease.
I was going to say,
the country.
White t-shirt.
Yeah. No. He would wear the leather, but he wouldn't have white t-shirts. Yeah, but he would wear the leather. Yeah.
So actually, Grease. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I always wondered, what the fuck is that about? But yeah, no, he's turned his life around recently. He's gotten all the certifications, all that kind of stuff. So he's a good kid. I say that he's a good kid. He's older than I am, but just because of the stories I would hear, that's how the dialogue fucking transformed.
Amazing. Have I told you guys how I applied myself in college? How well I did my first semester?
No, please inform us.
No, tell us.
Oh, so I was a great, studious kid.
There we go.
Generally straight A's all through grade school and high school and stuff. And then I went to college. I'm like, man, this is so nice. I don't have people breathing down my neck. And come the end of the semester, I got my grades back, and I had a 1.67 GPA.
Jesus, that sounds bad. I don't even know what GPAs are, but that doesn't sound good.
Oh Lord,
that's like close to being booted out of the school.
Wow.
Very, 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 very bad. So that it took me the rest of my college career to claw back up to a decent GPA. I think I finished with like a 3.6 or something, which is good.
Oh, boy.
That's pretty good.
But yeah.
A lot of people do that in their first semester, and then they make like the rest of the 3.5 years a fucking nightmare, because I'm guessing you had to retake most of that shit. But then again, if there's a semester when you should do that shit, it's freshman
It's
year.
the first
you know?
one. Absolutely.
No year like the freshman year and the senior year. Like in the senior year, you don't give a shit about anything. You're basically graduated. You're the motherfucking top G down in the campus. You know, it's good. But nothing beats freshman year, because in freshman year it's all new. You know, it's all holy fuck. In senior year, you're trying to catch it before it's gone, because deep down, even if you're not informed on how fucking messed up your life is about to be in capitalism, you deep down know that it's never gonna get this good, quote unquote. So you really claw to every nice experience that you can have before real life starts. But somehow the three of us said, "Real life, fuck that."
We're starting a podcast.
Yeah,
we're
boy.
doing a fucking podcast, baby.
I was gonna say, you said 3.5 years, dude, but it was 5.5 for me. And I don't know what you're talking about.
Rip.
Senior year, my senior year of university was the most studying I had to ever fucking do in my life. And already I was doing a fuck ton of stuff. It was horrible. But all that's behind
You
me.
had a real, career path. You had a real major. I was a journalism major, my friend.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's fair actually. But yeah, regardless, I'm glad that all of us have. We're upstanding members of society. We call for the dismantling of capitalism, for the complete.
You not have a college degree, you suck balls. Like, we are hardcore elitist, looking down
Intelligentsia
upon you type of Marxists.
Yes, we're sitting here on
Maybe
an
we
ivory
should
tower
start that thing, because there's so many socialists that LARP at being like quote unquote pro working class. Maybe our LARP / grift should be like Marxism for the intelligentsia.
Oh, fuck me. Dude, I can't think of a more fucking stuff. I would sooner shoot myself. Can't think of a more stuffy crowd than being around academic Marxists. I saw a talk by some Syrian leftist organization that they were giving some talks in the US about the Syrian civil war and different shit, and it was in front of these old upper middle class, upper class academic Marxists, and they're all white haired, and their fucking questions. I'm like, you people are so detached from everything that Marxism is supposed to constitute. It is horrible. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that sounds miserable.
Yeah, exactly. It's as miserable as you can imagine. It's very, very unpleasant. I was going to derail absolutely, but today, I think, speaking of med school, today I did something that arguably made me happier than when I finished med school, which was I got a new pack of green tea because I was out for 2 days or something. Wow. But today I got... 2 days. Yeah, no, those were some rough 2 days.
Man, graduating university really didn't make you feel proud, eh? Oh my God.
I think I genuinely have a fucking problem. Oh my God. But yeah, no, I was so fucking happy. After I came home, and I took out the pack, and I almost could have cried. I was like, I'm so fucking happy I have this green tea. So yeah, that was my fucking life.
2 days without it and you're tweaking.
Yeah, it's like you and your Coke. It's absolutely
Dr. Pepper. Thank you very much.
Sorry. Excuse me. That's disrespect from one doctor to your addiction of a doctor. That was
important distinction. I got 2 important doctors in my life. I love them both equally.
Oh, Habibi. Oh my God, that means quite a bit.
That's high praise. Yeah.
Yeah, I
enjoy it.
Yeah, I'd say I do very much enjoy being in your mouth. So I'm sorry. That was. Alright, hello everybody and welcome back to the Deprogram. Today we're going to be covering another lovely masterclass. Is that what it's called? Fucking masterclass, I already forgot. Yeah. This time we're going to be covering The Great Satan, as Hugo Chavez mentioned. This is...
Shaitan.
Yes, exactly right, Shaitan. And this is the lovely George W. Bush, not George W. H. Bush, which I've never understood this weird... Fuck, I don't give a shit. He's rotting in hell. It doesn't matter. But I always wondered, because you see this very often with American names, that it will be a dad and a kid, and they'll have the exact same name, which weirds me out. Yeah. What's the point of... Okay, because he's not even George Bush Senior. Junior. Do people call him George Bush Junior?
Not that I'm aware of.
Exactly. So it seems weird that you... Okay, whatever. Sorry, I'm being fucking pedantic about stupid shit. But yes, so he did a masterclass. For anybody who's unaware, Masterclass is this weird online service where they'll give a talk by somebody who you don't care about that will somehow apparently help you improve in whatever field you're looking into. But when you actually watch the videos, you realize that it's just kind of platitudes and nonsense that you spent $300 for no reason. By the way, we didn't spend $300. Our boy Yugopnik, through some fucking magic, I don't know how he did. He
spent $300 completely legally, absolutely 100% legally. Downloaded it like this is a sponsored post for Masterclass. Go and give them $300. Google the name, and then write torrent right after the name, and it will lead you to the legal website of the Masterclass.
So Yugopnik worked his magic. We got a hold of it, and we're gonna have a little look-see through and see what this beautiful gem, this pinnacle of Texan ingenuity. He is from Texas, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Proud,
sorry, JT.
born and raised, baby. Born and raised.
So you guys have George Bush and Ted Cruz.
Yeah.
You must be a proud
They all
state.
went to Yale. They don't count as Texans anymore.
Wait, he went to Harvard, not Yale.
Bush?
Yes, he went to Harvard Business School. Yep.
He went to...
Yes.
I know he went to Yale for something. I'm looking this up.
Oh, maybe he went to Yale for something else, but he went to Harvard Business School, and that's what makes me fucking laugh my ass off, because this is one of the dumbest motherfuckers I've ever seen. Okay, like, in a way, I mean, he clearly isn't as stupid as he likes to make himself look out to be, but he's not particularly bright either. And that just kind of shows that Harvard is just a...
He's like one of those people that's like bright enough to realize they're not bright.
Yeah.
And then like accept that and act in life based on that, which I can respect. Yeah.
He studied at both. Yep, it's true.
All right.
He's a double trader to Texas.
He flew the planes. He flew the planes.
But
He didn't ride the horses. He flew the planes. It's not fucking Texan.
But no, my point being is that like nothing will sort of solidify Harvard as a rich kids club more than that shit. By the way, in the part where he mentions that, he talks about like, oh, he wants to go into politics. He doesn't want to just be in academia. But the way he pronounces academia is academia, which makes me like there's one way to say that fucking word in American English. Please, all right, whatever.
Oh, he said something else too. Instead of incentivize, he said, "How do you incent people to do this stuff?"
Oh my god! Yeah,
amazing.
If you notice, actually, when he starts talking, he's so out of breath the entire fucking time. Why? He's like a fairly fit guy. Why is he so out of breath?
They were recording for way longer than it looks like they were, because some of those cuts like were clearly cut right in the middle of a sentence and like stitched together. They bounced between those two cameras so often. It was like, oh man, this took them all day.
Yeah,
exactly.
No, yeah.
They obviously gave him like sub questions because he talks about like mentions something extremely random, and then like 2 minutes pass, and then he goes back to explaining why he mentioned something extremely random. Like he goes all the way back to the beginning of the speech, because I only looked at the script and they were like, okay, this is making absolutely no fucking sense. Sir, could you please explain this? And he probably said, give me 5 minutes. I need to think about what I need to say. And then 3 of his agents came in, including his wife, who looks like she's the one carrying the whip in that fucking household, figured it out from then on.
He has this bit where he's like, oh, whenever I'm getting too big for my britches, my mother comes in and says, you're getting too big for your britches. I'm like, what the fuck does this mean? Oh my god. Well, yeah. The thing that immediately stands out when you watch this is, who the fuck is watching this shit?
Yeah.
There's no point. There's no like thread of information that cuts through all of it and ties it all together. There's nothing actually tangible that you can learn from this shit, aside from like vague references to stuff that he's done during his administration. And even that, by the way, if you skim his Wikipedia article, you're gonna get more information than from the guy who did the shit.
It's interesting because they build this as like the pinnacle of like interview series and stuff, and these are low budget productions. Like I was watching with kind of a journalism eye to it, and like the windows are blown out behind him. They were probably shooting this on like, I don't know, some kind of a low end Canon Cinema Line camera, maybe like a C200 or something. And so they could do this in an afternoon for like, I don't know, a couple $1,000 if they were catering the event. So this thing is a racket. It's a self-help racket like the books.
For sure. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, they get some like experts in specific fields out of which you can get something specific, like I don't know, Gordon Ramsay teaching you how to cook, you know, an actual fucking applicable skill, etc., etc. But those are probably 1 in 1,000. Most of it is just like I don't think like 5% of the subscribers to the fucking service even watch shit like the Hillary stuff, except for like I don't know, insane liberal women or George Bush insane old boomer conservatives who that have an extra buck. It's more like for the what you call it, for the appeal of the platform by itself. You know, we got fucking presidents up in here talking about shit, so you know it's worth your money. It's worth the name that we're trying to build is actually massive because we get to bring people of all strides. Same like fucking, I don't know, Jimmy Kimmel inviting over like ex-presidents or presidents, etc., etc. It's yes to get a few more eyeballs on the show, but also to kind of tap themselves on the back because of the caliber of people they're inviting. But associating yourself with George Bush might not have been the wisest idea. I mean, we know what happened with Ellen DeGeneres when she proudly stated that she is friends with George Bush, and how even people whose political opinions you disagree with, you can hang out with, etc., etc., which I would even agree to an extent, but you should not hang out with genocidal generals. Maybe that's where we should draw the line. And Masterclass associating themselves. Exactly, and Masterclass associating themselves with Bush is already like showing us just how whitewashed his entire career at this point is. I mean, we'll go through the chapters or whatever, but this dude like talks like sometimes like a classical liberal throughout most of his shit. He mentions diversity all the time. He mentions the co-aligned front of people with different ideas. He all the time talks about how he's very religious, but he is super open to other religions and people who are not religious, and how he's super loving and caring about that. I mean, we'll go more into detail, but it's really like, not only is Bush like whitewashed off his sins in the way the public sees him, but he actually whitewashed himself to an extent. I don't know if he has good agents or his wife or something, or his kids maybe, but he genuinely adopted ideas that, at least to my knowledge, he didn't carry back when he was president.
He's been completely rehabilitated in the public eye. Like even this, like they're contributing to it by like the last segment. It's like 20 minutes of him being a wholesome Bob Ross kind of painter guy. He's like, here's what I like to do. I love color, and it just makes me feel good, and you can do this too. And it's like, geez, man, like just not too long ago he was reminiscing fondly about the Bush Doctrine, which we'll get into, but Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I have a lot of shit to say about that nonsense, but I was just going to say, I can't wait for, like, just give it 5-10 years or something, and I can't wait for the Trump Masterclass. I can't wait for he's definitely going to be rehabilitated in some fucking form or fashion. I cannot wait for it.
You know why Trump's not going to get rehabilitated? Because he's going to die before there's enough time to rehabilitate him. But
no way, that man is going to live forever. He is not a normal human being. He eats McDonald's every day. He believes that human beings have a finite amount of energy they can expend before they just die. He is an anomaly. He's going to live longer than friggin' Kissinger.
I agree. There's these types of people that like either die a horrible death, or motherfuckers just don't die, like lives forever, buy 17 hearts like Kissinger,
No, was it Cheney that got the fucking 17 hearts? Yeah, it was
everybody
Cheney.
A fucking heart. It's like a fucking thing. It's like millionaires get Rolexes, billionaires get hearts.
Oh my god. Jeez. All right, then let's get started. Do you want to enter us to the beautiful segments?
Oh, lovely. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen and NBs, we shall be going chapter in, chapter out, and also smoothly shit-talking in between. And I would like to introduce you to one of my favorite chapters, chapter 4, called Building a Strong Team. Yes, as cliche as it sounds. So it starts out with the usual cliches about working well together, about always keeping your eyes on the goal everyone is trying to achieve, yada, yada, yada. and then it starts kind of, contradicting itself very strangely because, come on, dude, you couldn't keep it together with a single line of thought for like this 20-minute recording. I mean, he's giving us advice about how when recruiting for a political movement, you need like-minded people. And then later he goes on to teach us about how it stifles the organization when everyone thinks the same. Even though he just told us that you should hire people who think similarly. He tells us, we need everyone under the leadership to understand that at the end of the day, the executive decisions should come from, the executive. Basically, nobody fuck with me when I say something gets done, this gets done. But it's kind of funny coming out of the mouth from good old Bill, who had most of his political choices made for him by his vice president, the OG Dick motherfucking Cheney. He talks about work-family balance among employees by saying how nice he was that he let them bring their kids over to watch films at the White House like once a month, which is, basically the manager's classic come hang out because there will be free pizza, but for the White House. The whole thing is filled with insecurities on top of insecurities, almost like listening to a business student talk about business while never having worked for one or built one. He throws around corporate words, repeats himself on how tightly he controlled his team, and practically begs for liberal acknowledgement, what we mentioned before, by constantly mentioning, the importance of workplace diversity. Bush, honestly, I mean, we all know this, if not for his dad, would have peaked probably at managing 5-6 people at a paper production factory at the age of 45, which, he probably wouldn't excel at either. I mean, hell, listening to this thing made me realize that maybe the best thing he did for himself, not for the world, obviously, was probably the fact that he hired the people that he did. I mean, sure, they did more than their fair share in fucking up the world, but they sure as hell made him look relatively confident in his abilities. The question though is, and I don't know what you guys think about this. Did he do this by accident? Or is he at ease with his own inadequacies? Does he understand that he's an inadequate man for the position which he was given, and therefore, acted on them? I guess we'll never know, but we can guess, because the former requires some relative wisdom, and I don't think Mr. Paint Bro Bush Brush really had.
One thing that two things actually stand out to me that I like. It's because or like you hear about it so often, or you see it and nobody tells you it's wrong, so you never really think about it and realize, okay, that is kind of fucked up. But how the American political system is built on these weird dynasties that all kind of exist in the same sphere, like the Bushes, the Clintons, the fucking Kennedys. And even the new people who come in came off the backs of connections to these old groupings, and it's fairly transparent about, we're such a great democracy, but yeah, you're just like any other shithole, right? But okay, what the fuck's happening now? Hold on, my fucking light just started. I swear to God, this
it's broken again.
It just started flashing. Hold on, let me just fucking turn this. Okay, now it seems alright. Okay. Man. But yeah, anyways, but what I was gonna say, the second thing, he kept saying, because I don't know who this was aimed at. I think it was aimed at like company people, or corporate, because he keeps saying, the chief executive. When the chief executive decides to do this, then the chief executive. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? I've never heard this fucking term before. Either say CEO or the leader or president. You're the president, so just say the president. What the fuck is? Okay, whatever. But
exactly, it's his insecurities of being in an executive position that he needs to kind of push forward an image of somebody who knows how to do big business, as we say in my part of the world. So he throws around the terms. Like, it's literally like nobody in actual larger corporations at a higher level, unless it's like very technical, and then they need to use specific terms, actually uses those terms. Like, literally only interns do. And after 3-4 months, they are like, okay, like normal people who work in this firm, I don't have to pretend to be a robot. It's kind of a pain. And only people that never like actually engage with this of shit and only have their info from a fucking, macroeconomics 101 managerial fucking economics, etc., like throwing shitty fucking terms like this because they want to sound smart. So it's the same in every fucking field. Just Bush masturbates, I guess, to the idea that he was the CEO of America, which he kind of was, because what movie was that? The famous Brad Pitt quote, the United States is not a country, it's a fucking company.
Yeah, I think part of it is that, especially in conservative circles, there is a disdain or a shame in working for the government or with the government. So he doesn't want to see himself as a politician, like the top government official. He wants to see himself as the CEO of the White House, like as a company. So he's constantly referring to himself as like a manager and his team and stuff like that, kind of covering the government speak with corporate speak to throw people off the scent.
Yeah, generally.
Really astute analysis. It's really good. Yeah, and it like really touches how his fucking brain works.
I was gonna say something that you also touched on, Yugopnik, which I really liked, was the because he says it's like, oh, in my administration, I want represented all races, all genders, all religions, blah blah. It's like, motherfucker, you didn't know what genders were up until 2 weeks ago. Fuck you. All right. But the thing that really irritates me is like liberals love to do this shit. They whitewash, or they just bring in or like forcefully import this progressive terminology to people who never knew it or used it. Hillary Clinton fucking used and abused this shit. Right, and likewise with Bush. But something that I absolutely hate, which is something that I've noticed, I'm like, I didn't pay too much attention to American politics pre like 2010, but like recently in the past 8 years, there's this like PR-ification, like the fuck does PR even stand for?
Public relations.
But yeah, public relations, exactly. This of politics where everything has to be so like curated or like overviewed
focus
by these
grouped.
but by these fucking ghouls that don't know. It's irritating because on two accounts. Number one, because the people who are actually doing the talking, like Clinton or Bush or something, they don't give any shit about the things they're saying. Number one, and number two, neither are the people who are telling them to say this shit. They're just saying it because they know, oh, this will look good. To who? I don't know. To fucking people in Washington Post. I don't fucking know who. Because to everybody else, they can see right through it. I hope, at least. Liberals are known to be fucking stupid and blind. But it's generally it's very irritating, and it turns something that's already so like artificial, even more so, even more artificial than it used to be. And
well, they're in the business of establishing their legacy. As long as they're in office, and then as long as they're in the public eye after leaving office, they are just doing what they want to be remembered for. Like, this is the image of themselves they want to project into future history books.
Yeah, exactly right. But it's still nonetheless irritating because at least
absolutely.
They could have done something like this. I mean, this is what's so funny to me is that without these PR moves, the fear is that they're going to say shit that is so horrific, so out of fucking left field that everybody will be like, what the fuck? And then they're going to be forgotten. And that's the tell right there, that they can't be trusted to say their own words because their own words will get them, Like, I don't want to say fucking cancel because that's bullshit, but I mean, you understand what I mean.
Yeah, but that's exactly where like Trump fucking beats absolutely everyone else, because yes, he also has PR teams that are automated as fuck, etc., but they just manage to make him sound like it's actually coming out of his own mind, out of his own brain, and that he's like actually on the ground with what he thinks, and that feels extremely approachable and extremely like one of us to his audience. But Bush never was able to pull it off. Clinton obviously is literally the definition of someone who Pokemon cannot do it. But Obama, for example, for the liberal, is again an example, like a liberal Trump of being able to genuinely sound like he meant what he was saying, even though we could argue that he was literally the beginning of the era of automated, AI-driven, PR-driven elections and campaigns. And not only that, but what JT mentioned previously, the fact that they understood that you don't really have to do anything while you're in office, or if you do extremely fucked up things while you are in office, you absolutely can whitewash yourself off those sins afterwards. And it's been working for pretty much all of them. Let's see if it also works for Trump eventually, or whoever becomes the next president of the USA.
No, generally. Sorry, when you mentioned that, I thought about the fucking. We mentioned this the last time as well. The meme with Hillary Clinton when she was like, "Oh yeah, I carry hot sauce in my purse," and then and then on Twitter somebody made a meme about that. I was like, "Oh, Hillary Clinton's PR team is just a bunch of people shuffling around an office." That shit is so. I don't know why it's so funny to me, but yeah, exactly right.
Is with her. I don't know, or she just doesn't listen to any of their fucking advice, or literally she has the worst fucking team of pretend teenagers of all time. You know? These fucking 42-year-old corporate ghouls that convinced her to think that they're hip because they got like 40K bought fucking Twitter followers, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's probably worse. She probably has those people who fucking run the corporate like snack accounts, Twitter accounts.
Oh yeah.
Right? Yeah. She probably has one of these people fucking what's the corn pops? What's the one yeah, you know which one I'm talking about. But yeah. Something else that like I notice. I'm by no means like an expert in any of this shit, but it's something that always stands out to me because Americans never seem to notice it for some reason or just take it for granted. But in American movies, in American media, even in American politics, whenever there's something super fucking horrific that the US does, for some reason, it suddenly becomes okay because it's dressed up in some like, rising or inspiring music, right? And this happens a lot. In the what's it called, the Masterclass as well. He speaks about the Bush Doctrine, which we're going to get into in a second. But it's like unilateral seeking of economic interests of the U.S., preemptive strikes based on very low or non-existent evidence of terrorism, or basically what's it called? Not contention. What's the word? Action against the U.S., etc., etc. And when he's talking about this, the music suddenly like begins to rise and it gets like inspiring, like you're watching I'm just thinking like. So an American's supposed to watch this and also feel equally, inspired, like, oh yes, the bombing of fucking third world countries. Wow, right? It's generally, yeah. And of course, by the way, again, the complete whitewashing. Even as I was watching this, I would have to remind myself that, hold on, I'm watching a literal war criminal, like, chuckle about his stupid fucking administration. And imagine if instead of this, you had like a bunch of, like in a fucked up hypothetical world where the Nazis won, and then they're doing these stupid types of things, and you have some fucking boomer SS officer, and he's sitting there in his stupid uniform. He's like, oh, and when we went into fucking, this Belarusian village and massacred 2,000 Jews, like we did, and
yeah.
Right? It's the same vibe. It's literally the same fucking vibe. But just because it's an American politician that's been a bit, he's been with Ellen, okay, and he fucking speaks a bit of Spanish, right? And then all of a sudden it's okay? Fuck me. If he speaks Spanish, then so do I. But whatever.
Okay, so let's move into chapter 11, equally as good as the previous one, titled Prioritize. So priorities, they are very important. People often tell me, hey, you were president. How did you manage to be a good father and husband or a friend? Well, it is all about priorities. No shit, Sherlock Waters wet, but like he goes on about this shit for at least like 30% of this chapter. Then we move into something, more important, humility. Hats off, actually, for mentioning he's from a powerful family, but one, and I quote, of great humility. I guess humility means something different over there in Texas. You can tell me more about this later, JT. I mean, he puts on an especially big emphasis on listening to when people you trust come and say, hey, man, you're off track. Funny coming from a dude who was so off track that he envisioned nukes where there were none. When it comes to prioritization, he, then goes on to mention his rediscovery of faith. It, quote, keeps man grounded. And the 3 points he lives by discovered through faith are love your neighbor, be compassionate, and guess this, coming from George Bush, don't prejudge. George Bush said, nobody made him do this. Do not prejudge. Like, this man prejudged the whole fucking country so hard it led to it being bombed off of the map. But don't prejudge. He had 3 things. That's what he included. I mean, I love this man's brain patterns. He finishes off by talking about himself, and not finishes off, jerking off in front of the camera. That would have probably been like 3 times more entertaining, this fucking shit. But he finishes off by talking to himself in the third person, I mean, of course, about how he hopes George Bush will be remembered as a leader led by his faith, but one that equally supported everyone, including those who do not share the same faith or any faith with him. Hakeem, opinions on George Bush and respecting other faiths?
I mean, yeah, he did a very good job of respecting faith by calling the war against the Iraq a crusade and then bombing the shit out of my country. Jesus. So that was a very, there's something actually that like, you may or may not have to
respect your faith, but under his, like.
Yeah, exactly right. I was gonna say,
I respect your papa. Like the SS officer, like, respected the Jews,
Yeah, no, honestly, yeah, no, exactly right. And this is the thing I was going to say to JT right now. You may or may not have to bleep some of this, but, I hate Bush and Cheney and all these fucking assholes, Condoleezza Rice and the other ones that have fucking died, thankfully, Albright and Powell and all these people. But to a point, like, I've hated them so much for so long that I've even become numb to that hate as well. So when I look at Bush now, I don't even feel that hate anymore, because of how much I hated him prior. But also, at the same time, there's nobody that I fantasize. So you may or may not have to bleep that out. But, yes, exactly right. So that's where the weird, like, intersection comes there. But who knows? Yeah, he's gonna meet his Lord. He's gonna have to answer for the shit that he's done. But yeah, exactly right. No, he has a lot of respect. Okay, wasn't he also on some advisory board for the bombing of Yugoslavia? I remember something like this as well, loosely.
Wow.
Right? Because he was in part of the team for his fucking dad, and then part of those people helped Clinton. Right afterwards, some bullshit like that. So yeah,
they're all one big happy family.
Yeah, exactly right. I hope that answers the question.
You mentioned that he had said he had humility, and that's one thing that stood out to me as kind of interesting, because in my sections that I listened to, he was kind of joking about how cocky he is. Like, he's aware that he's very cocky, which is, that doesn't jive with his humility. So it should be pretty clear that he says whatever he's expected to say in any given situation.
Yeah,
exactly.
No, I was going to say one more thing as well, because in that little clip, like shortly before this, by the way, they completely ignored, he mentions the Iraq war briefly before this, and then he just they rapidly skip over. They never once touched the fact that he went to Iraq based on a lie, that he lied through his fucking teeth. They knew he was lying. He knew he was lying, right? Now they completely skip over that shit, right? But he then moves on to the like complexities of the war and about being a leader, what he should do. And he has this quote where he's like, should I pull out or should I set up an ally regarding this war on terror and a relatively stable country in the Middle East? I'm like, you motherfucker, Iraq was already, by the way, it was already a stable fucking country before your bullshit. And also, it was the number one country that actually and effectively fought against terrorism or terrorist cells in the entire greater Middle East. All right, fucking stupid Orientalist term, but just for ease of understanding. Whenever you look at any terrorist attack of the past fucking 50 years, you will see every ethnicity represented. Every fucking thing. From Chinese to Indian to fucking Brazilian, doesn't fucking mean. You see everybody. What you will never see is an Iraqi person. And you just gotta think, I wonder why. Maybe that's because the fucking Iraqi government took these people and threw them in a pit. Maybe. just type it that maybe. Right? Fucking hell. It is very irritating to hear. And there's a bunch of other shit that he what's it called? What he said, a bunch of other stuff that he said around this, where he's like, sending troops into combat is a very heavy decision, and every president has to be very hesitant to do so. I was like, motherfucker, you and every single president before you, one of the first things they do once they get into office is send more troops into some fucking godforsaken corner of the earth. What are you talking about? Nobody believes your bullshit. Oh, man. Sorry, I derailed, but yeah, it gets irritating.
No, you did it. I mean, when he even talks about priorities, he mentions like the more difficult decisions that he had to take in his life, and I'm like, okay, now he's going to talk about a world-changing decision which he made, which is the war, and he just talks about how like he realized he needs to stop drinking because he preferred drinking than reading his daughter bedtime stories. I was like, holy fucking shit, man. So that was your big like struggle in life. Okay, you do you, bro.
The thing is that like with Hillary Clinton, at least you can make fun of her because she never succeeded in anything, right?
Yeah.
But with Bush, in a weird twist of fate, he managed to get to that position despite the fact that he's thoroughly incompetent. And that's why it's hard to say, because whatever happened, you're like, he did in the end of the day, he did get to the position somehow. Of course, we know how, through fucking daddy's connections and whatnot, but yeah.
And then stealing the election, of course.
Yes, of course. By the way, everybody seems to fucking forget that shit. It seems like every American election has some aspect of something being stolen here or there. I wonder why such a perfect democracy, where you get to choose between one guy you don't like and the other guy that you also don't like. That you had no choice picking, by the way. I wonder. But is it time for my for my sections?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, sure. These ones, Yugopnik did his homework very well, and he was very structured. I didn't even bother to write down the names of the fucking chapter titles, so I'm sorry. But I'll give a brief rundown of the bullshit. Okay, in the first...
Don't worry, like you don't need to. They're all teamwork, prioritization, humility, cock-sucking. Oh no, that would actually be entertaining. No,
it's all self-help seminar fucking terminology. It's a crock of shit.
Lobster hierarchies, crying from benzos. Oh wait, that's a different idiot. Sorry.
Yeah. Exactly right. The rats.
Cocaine.
It's like this. He sniffs.
Could you just please put that in the edit just for the memes?
Yeah. Yes.
The normal rat is like this. That's the normal rat. Like this. Like this. It sniffs. It's like this for quite a while. He's like this. And then maybe he sniffs. You are now a normal rat.
All right. So basically, in my sections, he said a whole lot of fucking nothing. It was 25 minutes that I watched. I watched the entire thing, by the way, the entire hour and 10 minutes or whatever the fuck, because I hate myself.
Why did you do that to yourself?
Yeah, I know. I hate myself.
You're so strong.
Yeah, I put it on 2.6 times speed just so I can fucking plow through it. But yeah,
I did it at 2.6 is next level. Yeah. And the whole thing, wow.
Yeah, because at 2%, then because he does this thing where he'll say a word twice, and then he'll take a pause, like and then he'll say it again twice, and then he'll continue the sentence, and that shit drove me fucking insane. Okay, so he said nothing. Everything he said could have been condensed to 1.5 minutes, maybe. All right, so the first bit, he talks about this initiative that he takes all the credit for, despite the fact that it was a UN initiative, so that's a very scummy thing to do. It's called the President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, right, which was an international UN effort of dozens of fucking countries that contributed to this. It wasn't just the fucking US. But basically, the idea was that they were going to put a bunch of money, which ended up being, I think, after they raised all the money internationally, it was like $90 billion or something, for funding for HIV treatment, AIDS treatment, information and educational prevention and research and whatnot, trying to get retroviral therapy to people who needed it, all that kind of stuff, right? And this was like, he spoke about this again with the same rising music and the inspirational shit that came when he talked about the Bush Doctrine, which I find is very fucking hilarious. But yeah, the important aspect is they cover it up like it's this beautiful success with absolutely no drawbacks, which for the most part, to give them credit, yes, it was a fairly successful endeavor, but they don't talk about the drawbacks. One of the drawbacks was the way that, because this was kind of like a political prestige project, he launched this right after the war in Iraq. So it was kind of, there's a political game there of like, oh yeah, we're killing fucking all these Iraqis, but hey, we're helping some Africans with AIDS, so, it kind of balances out. Yeah. But yeah, so there was definitely a political motive to it and like a distraction thing, because you see during the reporting of Iraq, all of a sudden there's this bullshit that he has to give talks on. But something they don't speak about, in order to get this success, what they would do is they would take this money that they raised and they would go and pay salaries out to doctors and nurses in these served areas, and they would be like 100 times or 1,000 times the salaries of those people in their regions. So what this would cause is basically all medical personnel from across the country or the area would flock to only this AIDS stuff. So basically, you're taking all competent medical personnel, shifting them into only one area of treatment to the detriment of every other area in the medical system of the country.
Market, baby.
Exactly right. So what ended up happening in the long term was the systemic disruption of the medical systems of like half a dozen countries, because all of them basically flocked to try to get this, this AIDS money, which sounds funny to say. I'm sorry.
Era of money, but like AIDS money.
Exactly right.
Horrible. Sorry.
But yeah, at the end of the day, it did some good, but also they didn't of course, get to the root of the problem, which is usually either IMF or World Bank or US or other imperialist caused poverty and lack of access. This restructuring their economies caused them to be in such poverty and not to allow proper development of healthcare systems, and not allow for, of course, opportunities for employment. So a lot of them end up going the prostitution or drugs way, which increases rates of HIV, etc., etc. So this is, again, one of the most important points and very liberal way of dealing with the problem. Just throw money at it to cover it on the top instead of dealing at the root cause, which is lack of opportunity for a lot of people, issues with women's rights, lack of development of a healthcare system, lack of industrialization, etc., etc. So yeah, that was a big meme. That was the first one. And the second one, which he talked about, was he talked about his business endeavors, which, by the way, he barely had any. The one business he started basically failed. Fucking called Astorfo, what the fuck it was called. It was an oil exploration thing in Texas, which, by the way, he got investments from his dad's buddies into starting, and he was like, oh yeah, I started a small business. Again, it's very like the Trumpian, oh, just a small loan of $1 million. It had that vibe. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But something I didn't know about Bush
His whole life is that vibe.
Yeah, no, honestly, yeah, which is hilarious. But something I didn't know is that the investments that he did in oil or like this stuff, he did with the Bin Laden family, which is so fucking funny. Yeah, I didn't know this either. Apparently, this is a thing. One of the companies that he worked and then merged his company with was like one of the major stakeholders was the Bin Laden family. So
Interesting.
So that's neato. That's the first one. And the second thing was he bought up some fucking baseball teams called the Rangers.
Yeah. Rangers, Texas Rangers.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, well, to you, of course, that's local. To me, I don't fucking know.
Why don't you know about my baseball team?
Do they have a chant? All right.
I have no idea. I don't watch.
Have you ever been to a baseball game?
Yeah, actually, I went to one where Dubya was there.
Really? Okay. Why didn't you? I'm only joking. This is gonna go into your FBI file. It's fine.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Hi, FBI agent.
I hope you're enjoying the show.
Yeah, become a patron, you fucking leech. Anyways, oh my god.
FBI, you become a patron because you'll get like extra bonus episodes
you get
which are not available anywhere else, where we are extra radical. You know.
Yeah, we talk about all our plot stuff in the top tier. So yeah,
exactly
join us
right.
there.
Yeah, please. I want us to proudly display a banner that says "Funded by the National Endowment for Democracy." What the fuck? I want to display that.
I would love to be endowed.
Oh, Jesus.
How that feels like.
Oh, fuck out. But yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, I was going to derail and ask some questions about
National
baseball.
Endowment for Democracy. It sounds like the nation is fucking, like, endowing democracy, because it literally is. I'm sorry, yeah.
You know, funnily enough, the terminology Americans use is fairly phallic or sexual. It's very weird. It's like, oh, we're pulling out, we went in.
Everything is phallic, my friend. Everything is phallic.
There's something Freudian about that, but I'm in no mood to make the analysis. But what I was going to say is, he bought up the stupid team, and then afterwards, I don't know, maybe it's a very good team. I apologize if it's your fucking team. I don't know. I don't watch baseball. Right?
I have no idea. Yeah, me neither.
But he used that, which, by the way, he got he bought with a bunch of his friends, his political friends, and his dad's friends. Again, like rich kid shit, right? And then he used that to run for governor. Like, oh, look at me. I'm sitting here in the stands with the baseball. Look at me hugging the baseball players. Vote for me, right? Which is kind of like sketch, but whatever. And then afterwards, there's some allegations of insider trading that he did. You know, the usual politician bullshit in the U.S., which some people are like, oh, there's no evidence of. And other people are like, oh, no, it's fucking fairly clear. I didn't look into it because I don't care that much. If he didn't do it, he probably didn't need to. He already had so much money. But if he did do it, would you really be surprised? Okay.
No.
But yeah. One question about baseball before we move on. JT, is it true that in baseball games you get like hot dogs and it's like a very short bun but a very long like hot dog? Is that true? Or is
I haven't heard that. I've never measured the dog to bun ratio at a baseball game.
Okay, because that's the only thing I know. Because the only thing that I've ever heard about it is that the food situation is very inconvenient and it's very dirty. But the thing that stood out is apparently the actual dog, as you referred to it, the tube steak, as you previously referred to it before, is apparently way longer than the bun, and somehow this is like structurally incoherent, but whatever.
No, it's super weird because everybody always talks about the length of a hot dog, but nobody ever mentions that there's different buns, You know, there's very, very different buns as well. It's not only about the size of the hot dog, it's about the size of the bun in which the hot dog fucking goes into as well.
Are we still talking about food, or is this...
Yeah, obviously. Yeah. I'm doing a character who gets reminded about the size of his penis with every single conversation point. And then I expanded it because it is the shaming of bodies which have penises that we always talk about the size of the pee-pee, but we never talk about the internal size of the bun in which the hot dog goes, you know? And then it's especially taboo to talk about if you put ketchup or mayo or mustard, you know, the juices that come out, because everybody's icky about it. And then everybody's scared. Oh my God, there's something wrong with me because shit's coming out. No, man, you're just like you're a mustard person, but you only had experiences with ketchup people. Okay, this allegory is going.
All right, you lost me.
Yeah, you completely lost me too.
I was trying to do an allegory about how like some people with vaginas are scared of squirting because they think it's nasty or whatever. But yeah,
Okay,
I got all over the place.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the apt mustard analogies.
You know, this is exactly what I thought we'd be talking about when we decided to sit down and watch the George W. Bush Masterclass. This is what I imagined.
Do you think George Bush squirts? I'm sorry.
I mean, his name is George Bush. I mean, Bush.
That
Bush.
is true.
You thought we were not going to talk about the bush while talking about the bush?
Oh my lord. Oh fuck. Dude, I don't know why my sternum hurts. Okay. Yeah. I'm good. I'm fine. All right.
He probably like calls his bush down there the bush. Yes, honey, do you like the bush?
Oh my God.
Didn't his wife kill somebody? Laura Bush, a murderer. Hold on.
This is news.
On the night of November 1963, 2 days after her 17th birthday, Laura Welch ran a stop sign and struck another car, killing its driver. The victim was her close friend and classmate, Michael Dutton Douglas. Yeah, she killed somebody.
Jeez. Was she drunk? Did she just...
I mean, I don't know. It says 2 days after her 17th birthday. I don't think she's going to be... Oh, God, she looks like a fucking nightmare. Jesus Christ. That's a Karen face if I've fucking ever seen one. Hold on. 17. That's a weird thing to search on the...
Yes, it is.
Okay, there it is. The victim was a close friend, blah, blah. Douglas had been Welch's boyfriend at one time, which say that he was not her boyfriend at the time, but rather a very close friend. They were treated for minor injuries. She was not charged. Of course she wasn't. She was a white woman in the 60s. It was a very tragic accident, deeply affected the families. You killed somebody, you fucking... Okay, all right, okay. And they just gloss over this. They're just like, oh, she attended James Bowie Elementary School. They just move on. Okay, cool, all right. Good to know. Wasn't Reagan's wife known as like the fucking deep throat queen or some shit?
Oh yeah, the throat goat.
Yeah, the throat goat. I fucking love it. Oh my God. Do you know the worst part about that is when you actually look into the claim, sadly it's very apocryphal. I think that's the term in English.
Yeah.
But fuck it, we'll take it as a given.
She got that Gluck 3000. That's all I know.
There we go. Jesus Christ. Hold on. Look, I'm gonna send you a picture of Bush. And tell me he doesn't look like a PlayStation 2 render or some shit. This dude doesn't look real. Hold on. Take a look at this fucking picture. Right?
Oh, wow.
He looks like glazed over. He looks like covered in wax. Oh, God. These are some fucking... He looks like they look like the worst kind of white people. I'm sorry. Okay, no, please,
well, kids are lovely.
I'm sorry. No.
The girls are lovely, but yeah,
he looks.
He looks like when his genes were coming together. Instead of 3% Neanderthal, they added a 0.
Oh my God! Why is he so tan?
Pilot, all the time in the fucking thing.
He's Mr. Texan, of course.
Yeah.
The Bushes had tried to conceive for 3 years, but pregnancy did not happen easily. All right, good to know.
Now there's a very like noticeable sense like when you're listening to this whole thing. I don't know how it felt for you guys, but it's like at moments I forgot that I'm listening to this like senior individual with a very long life and a massive amount of experience, etc., because he keeps talking about his dad. He keeps talking about his youth. It seems like he's a guy stuck at being a son, and he's always been a son. And even after his papa went R.I.P., he's still a son. There's something. What's that word? Something very not childish, but more scientific term. Childlike.
Juvenile.
Yeah, there's something
Jungian.
something very Jungian, something very juvenile about him in general, and we can see that not only in the way he talks, but what he talks about and how he tries to cover up inadequacies with petty fucking metaphors and shit.
I love it. It's like ultimately Bush and her husband refused to vote for president in 2016. So that's
good for them.
Yes. I mean, hey, this is the only principled stance they've taken in their lives, probably. All right, sorry. I fucking derailed. JT, do you want to enter into your little segments before we get into the painting stuff?
Yeah, sure. All right, so let's take my first segment. I had part 3, look over the horizon, which is every leader needs to know what it is we want to achieve and how we get there. So Bush said this right at the beginning.
Oftentimes in politics, and maybe sometimes in the corporate world, if there's a looming problem, some people say, we'll leave it to the next person. And to me, that's a sign of a failed leader. Leaders prioritize what's important.
Leaders prioritize what's important. Like what? Like a fraudulent war that killed over 1 million people? Like, where was the prioritization of aid to Hurricane Katrina victims? There were 1,800 fatalities. There were countless homes and businesses destroyed. It was, I think, $125 billion in damage and widely considered among the worst disasters in the country's history. But it was largely ignored by the Bush administration. So that, to me, he's kind of calling himself a terrible leader. Which honestly, that is correct. But it's like he completely forgets about all these things that he did wrong. But a little bit later, actually, he brought up Katrina. He was talking about sharing the credit and taking the blame.
I think people will tell you that I shared credit. And when things failed, I took blame. You know, I think of Katrina.
Okay, so he says he thinks of Katrina, and I was like, oh, he's actually going to be introspective and take some responsibility for his horrible response to Katrina. But nope, he goes on to say that his attempt to share the credit for the Katrina response with the head of FEMA backfired, and he got bad press for it. So he's not grappling with his own failure and his it's not just him, it's his entire administration, but his own inability to handle that crisis. He's saying, oh, I made a mistake and got some bad press, which is just incredible. And then later in the same piece, he goes on to say that people are pretty good at dodging responsibility. Not, of course, referring to himself, but rather that he had to make sure that he, as a manager, this is, again, with the business language, he had to hold others accountable. But he was never part of that. He never had to hold himself accountable, which is very... I don't know, for someone who spends all his time, painting and trying to sell himself as a man working through difficult decisions that he made in his past, he doesn't actually seem to be either cognizant of the mistakes he made or working through them at all. He's kind of just deflecting. And I'd love to get a psychologist's take on that. But yeah, throughout this whole part about taking the blame, he never actually takes the blame for anything meaningful. He doesn't mention the occupation of Iraq at all. He brings up Katrina briefly, but just in regards to the bad press he got. But like we've mentioned before, there's one other bit that I wanted to just touch on briefly from this entire series, and it's that he kept comparing running a country to running a company, which to me is pretty revealing. Everything must be made more efficient. Anything that doesn't provide a good return on investment must be cut. Sometimes decisions have to be made without democratic consensus, because that's what leaders do. Like I said before, it betrays what the United States is really about. Like a government should be there, a federal government should be there to take care of the population of that country. Like, for example, in a pandemic situation, that's what it's supposed to be there for. It's a safety net. It's the one, it's, if you want to call it Big Brother, it's a sibling or a parent figure or whatever to help take care of the citizens that live in that designated area. But instead, all we do is we see it as just another company, and all a company is required to do is deliver a profit to the shareholders, which explains a lot of the reasons that we're on a bad trajectory in terms of health outcomes and quality of life and wages and stuff like that. So to me, hearing it phrased in such a way from a past president is pretty revealing.
Absolutely, because the shareholders of the company, which is the U.S., are not the everyday working class citizens. So,
No.
yeah, he's efficient. The way the state operates is efficient. It's just that working class people have been led to believe that it's not fulfilling the role for which it is built. But it is. It absolutely is. Mm-hmm. As people realize more and more that, the whole conundrum doesn't come from reforming something or like fixing it up a bit because, if we change this or that, we can, we can become a bit better. It's not the system's fault. It's the bad apples, etc., etc. When we realize that, the whole fucking tree is fucking rotten from the inside, that's when, the shareholders can be changed, to use the same terms which Comrade Bush over there likes to use.
All right, my other section was Part 5, Making Tough Decisions. And if there's one thing that Bush did during his terms, it's make some tough decisions. So at early on in this one, he said this.
For a leader, you've got to make decisions, and if you do so based upon the Gallup poll, then you're a lousy leader.
All right, here he's specifically talking about doing things for the sake of popularity. Like, fine, you're not trying to make everybody your friend. That's not your job as president. But you should absolutely take the will of the people who elected you into account. These polls, they're flawed, all those caveats aside, but they exist for a reason, and they are to show the desires of the public. If you're actively ignoring those polls and those desires because you think that makes you weak or something, that is what makes you a lousy leader, not like trying to make friends with people. You shouldn't be actively antagonistic just because it makes you look weak. And that was kind of surprising to hear from Bush, just how belligerently opposed he was to making people happy by conceding to what had been asked of him. He seemed very combative the whole time, which is kind of opposed to this mythology that people have built around him, that he's this very friendly, love to have a beer with this guy kind of person. But no, he seemed actually kind of bitter, which was very interesting to me. But then let's talk about some of the tough decisions he made. Here's one quote that really stood out to me.
After 9/11, my administration laid out a set of principles to deal with threats before they fully materialized. And those principles became known as the Bush Doctrine.
All right. I know Hakeem can speak about this a lot, but do you want to know what's in the Bush Doctrine? One key point reads, quote, America will act against emerging threats before they are fully formed. So this may sound kind of innocuous, but this is a semantic shift to justifying intervening around the world based on some perceived threat. As in Bush's case, fabricated stories of weapons of mass destruction. Thanks to the Bush Doctrine, our official foreign policy stance became preemptive strike, as opposed to, being more reactive. As one contemporary article put it, the document is, quote, a romantic justification for easy recourse to war whenever and wherever an American president chooses. And I think that's exactly what we've seen in the years since. We've switched to active sabotage, not like we weren't doing it quietly and covertly before, but now it's just the official stance. They're a threat. We need to project force in that region now. We need to get destroyers over there. We need to get boots on the ground. And that's seen as normal. But this was a fairly recent thing, but it's incredibly dangerous that is our explicit foreign policy stance now, is kill this in its cradle before it becomes, some perceived threat to the United States. And that could be, any justification whatsoever, like we saw with the false intel to get us into Iraq. And one thing that kind of goes along with that, another quote that came along a couple minutes later, was this one.
And sometimes I had information that the American people didn't know and weren't allowed to know, and therefore I had to make decisions what was best for the country on knowledge that wasn't evident. And people didn't want this, but he did it anyway, kind of thing. But that's just the nature of leadership.
Okay, that to me is just it's such bullshit. The information we couldn't know that he's talking about has been proven to be lies to justify an unjustifiable invasion. I think, the American people were right in opposing this unjust occupation. And Bush chose to pursue it not because it was morally right or in the best interest of either country, but because of a long-standing agenda of American imperialism. So this section was called Making Tough Decisions. And throughout the entire chunk where he's talking about this stuff, all of the decisions he chose to make were at the very least misguided, and I think most of the time outright like the worst decision anyone could possibly make, based on false justifications, based on phony evidence. And to me, that was just a sickening segment to watch.
The entire issue with all this stuff is, the crux of the matter is most Americans don't care. I think that's the fundamental, because there's several fucked up things that he did. Not only the Bush Doctrine stuff, the Patriot Act stuff was also Bush, I believe, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of other bullshit. There's a bunch of anti-immigrant stuff that he put in. The basically entire framework for Obama's later on incarceration, that's not even, the internment of people in fucking camps, and then later on Trump and Biden, all that stuff, that was put in place by Bush. The entire drone program nonsense was put in place by Bush. He did so much wrong, and Americans didn't give a shit. Even during his tenure, there was lukewarm, oh, he's an idiot on like fucking, liberal talk shows. But otherwise, there was no real resistance to anything that he did. For the most part, the vast majority of the American population was pro all the incredibly violent and militaristic action that he was carrying out. And they were even pro the repressive shit he was doing at home. And then afterwards, when he left office, give it 5-10 years, then everybody's forgotten, and now they've gone directly into rehabilitating him. Oh, he's a cute old man who does fucking drawings of puppies and all that bullshit. So that's I think the like fundamental, I don't want to say failing, but why it's always so depressing to even talk about all this stuff. No one cares. At the end of the day, the American people, nobody cares. All the people who do care are outside the U.S. facing the consequences of the actions of the U.S.
Well, exactly. We're insulated. We're in the belly of the beast, and that it's not until recently that any of that kind of imperialist tendency has been turned inward. So historically, like, we've been safe and isolated and coddled while not really seeing any of the fallout of our own policy, which I think, it takes a toll on the mental state of Americans, where we just, if it's not shown to us...
Yeah. Invincibility complex in a way.
Exactly, yeah.
I was gonna say, with the slipping of the American position as the sole power and all that kind of stuff. To quote the guy, the Papa John's guy, a day of reckoning will come, and that's what's the worst aspect about it is if the leftist organizations within the United States don't get their stuff together, and don't manage to create something positive out of the situation, then either there will be some sort of increased militaristic action on the part of the U.S., or there's going to be a sort of retaliatory effect onto the U.S. by other countries, or even worse, a descent into fascism, where the ruling class will clamor to preserve at least some semblance of this old former glory and power and capital that they used to be able to sling around in the world. Interesting times, sadly. We embody the Chinese curse of living in interesting times.
Yeah, rip us.
And now we enter into the final segment, in which, by the way, it does kind of feel like you have, I don't even know if I should, it's like you're dealing with like a 5-year-old or something. You're talking, because in the middle of a conversation, he finishes one sentence, there's a hard cut, and then he just slaps his thighs, and he's like, all right, let's go paint something. And it just felt, it didn't feel all right. I was like, this guy's missing something. So he gets up to do stupid painting, and he talks about, connecting to people through art, and I love this art, and blah, blah. There's a story I want to share, but it's very depressing, so I'm going to cut it down to just the parts where you get the information. But around 2006, 2007, this was around the height of the sectarian period at the hands of the American illegal aggression against my country. And there was some story that made a bit of a splash, because she got an interview in a local, in a national, news station. It was a little girl. She was maybe 10 years old or something like that, 12 years old, not very old. And as a result of American bombing, she had lost her arms, both arms. So she just had like legs and a torso and a head, obviously. And her family was severely affected. I think her father died and a bunch of her siblings or whatever. And basically everybody in the home was disabled in one way or another. And she had to leave school, and to make ends meet to help her family, she would do paintings on the side of the road and basically sell them to people. And she would paint she would use her feet to hold the the brush and paint. And this kind of made a bit of this was like noteworthy, I guess, at the time. And when he started painting, that was the only image that came to my mind, like how horrific the consequences of American action, American illegal aggression against every country on earth. It's not just us. It's not just us in Iraq. It's in Afghanistan. It was in Vietnam. It was in Laos and Cambodia. It was in all of Central America and most of Latin America. It was in the many military aggressions that they had sponsored all across Africa, from Libya to Uganda and the Congo. And the sheer inhumanity of American imperialism, and the way that they try to whitewash this war criminal it's so blatant and so filthy that it not only does it sicken you, but also, again, it numbs you to the sheer evil of what you're seeing, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing at the core of the matter. When people look around the world, it's like, oh, why does the entire world hate Americans? Why do they hate the United States? Why do they hate the United States government? It's like, this is what you result in. Whenever you go around the world, you don't help people. Right? Argue like China does, for example. There's an argument to be made there, right? You don't, when you go, you bring murder, you bring destruction, and everywhere you go, there's one sign that always comes up. It's Yankee go home.
Yeah.
Right? There's a reason for this. But yeah, so the story's a lot longer, whatever, but I didn't want to, because it's very depressing and brings down the entire mood of this shit. So I'm going to bring it to something that's slightly less depressing, but still kind of depressing. I'm so sorry. But yeah, hey, we can't just, like Gopnik said, you guys need to fucking learn something as well.
Yeah.
And sadly, the amount of pain and suffering that all the world's population have to carry as a result of this is something that we have to at least touch on occasion. But yes, a secondary story was there was a very popular and internationally renowned Iraqi artist and painter. Her name was Layla Attar, and she was made director of the Iraqi National Art Museum. She was a very talented artist. If you Google her, you'll be able to find some of her art. Her name is Layla, so Layla, and her last name was Al-Attar, Allattar. After the illegal aggression, the first illegal aggression of the United States against Iraq in 1991, she became slightly more politically involved by an artistic way, and in front of one of the main hotels in Baghdad, the Rashid Hotel, which is a beautiful hotel. It exists to this day. But now it's owned by some fucking bullshit French company. So, oh boy, gotta fucking love that. Before it was a state-owned one, obviously. In front of the entrance to it, there was a mosaic that she had made of George Bush Sr., and underneath it, she put the words basically in Arabic and in English that Bush is a criminal, is what she put. I'm gonna send you pictures of it so you guys can take a look. It's actually a beautiful mural, and the point of the mural was that whenever you walk into the hotel, and by the way, this is a hotel that any foreign dignitary that had to come to Iraq they were staying at this hotel, basically. So anytime anybody visited Iraq on official capacity, they would have to walk and step on Bush's face. That was the point, right? And in our culture, the shoe on somebody's face, or walking, or like the bottom of a foot on on a face or a flag or something, that's a major sign of disrespect. So that was kind of the point, and yeah, that was kind of it for her. And then afterwards, for 2 years later, if you don't know, I'm sure there's some people who listen to this that don't remember. All throughout the 90s and the early 2000s, the U.S. would just randomly bomb shit in Iraq all the time, which is, by the way, a completely normal thing that a regular democratic, freedom supporting, etc. This is just a regular thing that countries do, right? Every day I hear about Denmark and fucking South Africa and Bolivia going and just randomly bombing some country on the other side of the earth. earth, right? On one of these attacks, on some fucking government building, the United States, by the way, this was sanctioned by Clinton, bombed some government thing in Baghdad, and just so conveniently, 2 of the missiles that were aimed at this building went to her home. Right, killing her and her husband and some of her family members, blinding her daughter, and causing her son to be disabled. Basically, she was assassinated by the U.S. Military. Not only this, but those missiles also hit several other residential neighborhoods, killing many civilians. This was a regular occurrence by the United States. She was a martyr of basically the American aggression for doing nothing more than basically making a fucking mural. That, you know, like the pettiness of it as well is funny, and this is the sort of pettiness that you expect from the quote unquote dictatorships that the Americans make fun of. But hilariously, when you actually look into it, the most petty people is the United States government, the most petty, most insecure as well in this sort of stuff. So this is apologies for bringing the mood down, but.
No, it's good to know these things. Like, we're never taught that kind of thing here in the States. So being able to hear it from someone who knows it and experienced it, that's I think important.
So yeah. Oh, I forgot the most important thing. Do you want to know the best part about this? Is when one of the actual things that had to be done hilariously by the American soldiers, one of their duties was when they occupied the hotel, they had to tear up the mural. So that, like, again, to just push home the pettiness of it. American soldiers, one of their objectives is occupy this shit and then remove this fucking mural. Again, the fucking pettiness of this shit is. Do you guys have anything to add about Bush and his painting? By the way, he's a garbage painter. He's a shit fucking painter. Fuck him.
I had never seen his paintings before, and I was very curious what they would be like. I guess I was kind of expecting Hitler's work, where, you know, it had some actual detail and skill to it and stuff. And not to say, like, you can't objectively judge art and stuff like that. And I'm sure some people would really enjoy Bush's. But yeah, I didn't. You know, I'd heard he was, quote, an artist, but it didn't really speak to me at all. But it was curious to me that Bush was inspired, he said, by Churchill's painting as a pastime. Did you see that? Yeah. And I was just wondering, like, what is it with war criminals and painting? Like, I need to hear the psychologist's explanation of that one, because they seem to all do it.
Hillary's favorite quote was from Churchill, and now second masterclass we have Bush being inspired into his hobby or second job or calling, also by Winston Churchill. I mean, this man
calms the demons in their head, probably. That's why.
Yeah.
But what a fucking thing. Oh, by the way, I got my inspiration from fucking Churchill. Okay, so you're a piece of shit and you got inspiration from another piece of shit. Fucking...
Yeah, and he's probably LARPing. It's not even from Churchill. Like, it's from the OG painter that, Brother JT mentioned 1 minute ago. The president of all presidents and the painter of all painters.
Yeah, no, exactly right. When what's it called? You got me put it in the notes. He was like, "Oh, Churchill painted." I was like, "Oh, there's some other guy that liked to paint." I never, when watching it, I'm so lost in my rage against this. I didn't even think for a second to make the connection, which is absolutely fucking hilarious. I have nothing to add. It's just him fucking, like, do you know, actually, the one thing that annoyed me when he would when he dropped the paints on the fucking from the tubes onto his table. First of all, onto a bare table, which I was like, oh god, come on, dude. But the thing is, he would, like, put such huge fucking dollops. I'm like, you're not gonna use all that fucking paint. That's just gonna fucking crust up on the counter, dude. Come on. But yeah, I mean, he didn't increase the American, like, budget deficit by like $500 billion or some bullshit.
Now he's doing it for paint.
Oh boy, I love it. Hey, they found each other. He got with his wife, and she was like, "Oh, I murdered somebody." He's like, "Oh, I got to top that."
Yeah.
and always the overachiever, Bush. Oh my god, stuff with a lot.
He even has like a coach. I'm not gonna bother in researching who the coach is, but he's probably like a legit painting instructor / artist, etc., etc. And imagine how, like, down on your luck in life you have to be, that, you know, the career in this fucked up way we organize society didn't lift off because, you know, your paintings aren't making money. So you have to, stoop so low as to satisfy a hobby turned passion project of a former war criminal your day job. That guy must not sleep well at night, man. I wouldn't want to be him. I mean, honestly, between Hitler had pretty much the choice, like either teach dumbasses how to paint for low money or become the Führer of the Third Reich. And honestly, I would pick the latter than fucking teach these motherfuckers. Teaching Bush how to paint or blowing my brains out in a bunker with the cousin of mine that I'm fucking. Yeah, it's a pretty easy choice in my fucking eyes, bro.
But yeah, and then by the way, then it just ends like abruptly. There's no like conclusion. There's a bit where they try to humanize him, but it's like, oh, he did this thing where, again, like this liberal whitewashing, which by the way, again, all these fucking liberals that were against him 10 years ago are now like embracing him and kissing his fucking taint. They're sorry for the image, but the what's it called? He's like, oh, I painted these the war criminals that returned from Iraq and the fucking veterans, these assholes. Yeah. I was like, oh yeah, I started painting them, and then I decided to paint immigrants, and like like the stupid shit of trying to humanize him and make him like this character. He was the guy who set up the fucking cage shit. He was the one who set up the infrastructure for that nonsense. But now he paints immigrants, so it's okay. He's the one who sent these fucking poor kids to go and die in Iraq, right? But oh no, now he paints a veteran, so that makes it okay.
I mean, that's it. I mean, he's been fully rehabilitated, like we said. Like that's that. Bush's legacy is now the cute old painter who shares his candies with Michelle Obama, and that's one big club.
Oh my god,
the innocent, childlike politician who might have been manipulated in doing the wrong thing, but his heart was in the right place. He's basically the American Gorbachev.
Yeah. Gorbachev was somehow even. If he was the American Gorbachev, I would have. You know what? I would have forgiven him if he was the American Gorbachev, because he would have brought down that fucking empire. Which, in a weird way, he kind of did. In a weird way, like he did start the, like prior to
I guess so.
The foray, if you would allow the aforementioned waste of time language into Iraq, their little adventure into Iraq. Prior to that, the United States was like, when they bombed the shit out of Yugoslavia, they were still kind of the pinnacle of that didn't weaken their standing, right? Yeah. But then they went into Iraq and they spent $2 trillion and they had all these bunch of. By the way, side point, which is, I'm gonna get on my soapbox here. Something I fucking hate. Americans seem to be obsessed with like what's it called? They think it's a video game, like kill-death ratios. Yeah. They seem to, like in Vietnam, it's like, we didn't lose in Vietnam, we killed more of them. You're such a stupid fuck. Whatever. But that's not the point. My point being is, when you look at the so obviously skewed one,
such a stupid fuck. Like he's imagining the motherfucker that like right in front of him that he's talking.
Yeah, genuinely. The very obviously skewed statistics of U.S. military in Iraq. Because they're like, oh yeah, we have over 1 million soldiers injured in Iraq. But we only had 5,000 killed. Motherfucker, their Iraqi insurgent snipers had fucking leaderboards. Unironically, Dubya, who's the most famous Iraqi sniper, killed 650 American soldiers. Just him. Just that one guy, that one hero, for fuck's sake. You're telling me you guys lost... Fuck, like the way that they have to lie to their population, and the worst part about it is that their population buys this shit. They generally do fucking believe this nonsense. That, oh, you go and you occupy a country for 8 years and only 5,000 of you die. Fuck you. In Vietnam, which by the way, it came out, it was proven that they lied about their statistics. Something like 60,000 American soldiers died in Vietnam, some bullshit like that. Oh, no, US and South Vietnamese, okay, they mixed them between 200 and 250,000. I think specifically American casualties were like somewhere around 50, 60,000. So to bullshit me and be like, oh, no, it was only 5,000 in Iraq, get fucked.
Well, to close this off, the last thing I noticed, Bush in this, like when I started watching, I was like, oh man, he seems really old and tired. And then at one point he mentioned that he's 75. I'm like, huh. Okay, how old is Hillary Clinton? She's 74. I don't know if it's the presidency or what, but he aged so hard, which is kind of weird because Trump was president too, but he hasn't really aged a day. I guess he wasn't super invested in it.
The Cheetos.
Come on. It's the McDonald's, and he's contained more of his his energy. He hasn't spent as much energy
and
as
Bush
did.
exercises
Bush
like
is nearing
crazy.
the end.
Like he exercises every single day. He's been doing that for like 50 years of his life. So all the energy has gone out. Man, there might be something to this Trumpian medicine.
But yeah, hey, at least he doesn't have the sunken eyes that Clinton does. Jesus Christ.
No, I think our boy Bush had some little Botox, some touch-ups down on the cheeks and shit. His face is too like monotone as compared to his usual like Neanderthal composition. Race scientist Ugopnik up in this motherfucker. he looks like he changed sub-races a bit from a surgery or two. We probably get some young people's blood here and there, the transfusion fucking trend. And yet he looks the way he looks. So it's interesting. I wonder what Obama's gonna look like. But by far the one who aged the worst, I do not suggest you Google it, is Bill Clinton. Like that man looks like
rough.
like when a vampire bites a human and then the human can turn into a vampire, but somehow a vampire bit him and he didn't turn fully vampire, but like stayed somewhere in between where he can like live forever, but he ages radically and is pale as fuck. And that's our boy Bill. George is getting there as well, but
George Bush is aging like a normal person. Like,
Yeah.
yep, that's an old guy. But then you look at Clinton, it's like, oh, did he drink some radioactive waste or something? He does not look good.
That man does not look good.
Being married to Hillary.
Hillary,
Clinton, I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh, we're gonna get flagged for that comment, but eat my fucking ass.
Yeah, they can eat my the literal demon woman. Fuck you. Oh, it's sex. Fuck you. All right, Jesus Christ. You people who never give a shit about a single fucking Iraqi woman. There's a thing. One of the bullshits that they said about Iraq. One of the pink imperialism bullshit is like, oh, the Iraqi women, blah blah, oppressed, blah blah. They come, and one of the first things when they fucking bombed, the Baghdad University archives, destroying every single PhD thesis written by an Iraqi woman. Get fucked. Fucked, you absolute animals. Oh man.
Well, on that positive note, shall we wrap up the show, boys?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Victory to the American progressive forces. Here's to, inshallah, a united Chattanoogan Soviet Socialist Republic.
Okay, at least there's a part of that JT won't have to censor. So
Exactly right. This has been the Deprogram. I'm Hakeem.
I'm JT.
And I'm Ugopnik, and yes, my arms hurt.